Having learned about the base SQL Server classes, now I want to show you the GUIs that I have prepared for you to help make your application generation a lot easier. I have produced most of the requirements to run a SQL application. All of these windows are used in SQL Master, which we'll look at in a runtime sense shortly. But let's just go through the classes themselves first. Sorry, I just closed that. Firstly, there's a number of base classes that I use in the windows themselves. I don't need to go through these now. However, you'll see that there's a number of GUIs, such as attaching a database. So here it collects the database, the physical file, the log file, and has a button to attach. Naturally, the attach button has the code to generate and save to a default location the information and call attach. And you'll see it calls OConnection class attach database. So that code, if you ever want to see it, you can right click it, go into it, go to the provider class, and there's where it's building the string and executing a stored procedure to do attach DB. The database backup window, if you want to use it in your application, has most of the features to list all the databases your application has access to and take such things as the default paths, URL to the server location, a move to location if required, and some cleaning up functions such as delete the original, shrink the log file, and call backup. And if we go into the backup button, you'll see that it builds some SQL to create the backup statement command, and it will execute that command. So if you want to know how to backup and zip a database, here is all the code to do that. The same goes for restore. Where's the restore? Database restore. Again, it collects the appropriate parameters, and the restore button will generate the code to do the restore. There is the SQL to generate a restore. There's also a copy button to copy a database from one location to another. And what that really does is it produces a complete database backup and copy by using backup and restore from one database server to another. By database server, I also mean database instance. I have another dialog, which is just a general purpose display dialog that you can throw any data onto. There's a display table dialog, which will produce the SQL, show you the SQL at the top and show you all the fields. This is easy to show you at runtime in SQL Master, but I'm just showing you where the GUI is. There's an event log browser, which actually lists all rows in a specific table. There's an execute stored procedure dialog, which is basically like a short, please wait for this to execute. You'll see this in SQL Master quite often when you need to choose the string delimiters used when you're generating an SDF format. Now, bulk insert and bulk export use this. The delimiters I use are not the regular commas and tabs, because I find that you quite often have a lot of text that has single quotes and commas in them, and you can't use those as field delimiters. You'll see this dialog in SQL Master as well. When you wish to insert a new row, this will give you all the column values that you populate with data. Manage SQL objects is a very important one. This is the window where you do those. You can manually manage the creating of all the SQL objects in a table. I'll show you this in a runtime app we have. Let me just find the dialog for you. This is one application, a user application, where in code I have defined a whole range of functions and stored procedures. So I can recreate all objects, in which case it will just drop and rebuild them all, Or for example, I can drop all the functions, rebuild all the functions. Then click that there and go process. And I go yes. And it's just dropped and rebuilt them. I would have got error messages had there been any. Now, for example, I will show you what happens in the... I'll do that again, this time with the debug view running. And you will see that it's actually given me all the code to drop all the functions, reload all the functions, and any error messages, if they were going to be, would have been produced here as well. Again, that will have produced all the log files in the log file folder. If I go to that folder, under SQL logs, you'll get all the drop and recreate commands placed up in here. So this is a very important one. I also have all the server level triggers in case you have them. If you don't have them, well, that's fine. You can also do a reindex of all the tables. Drop and reindex. If you want to rebuild all the indexes, they can be rebuilt from here. Okay, we'll just get rid of that one. Another GUI is this one. This is one where you have defined reports in your system, and this will actually manage all the SQL Server reporting server reports. It will actually go to the report server, enumerate all the reports, list them here, and allow you to either recreate, drop them, or redeploy them. There's a query builder in case you want to do that. I'll show you this inside SQL Master, where it loads the query, all the columns in the query, allows you to manually construct order by and where clauses, regenerate the SQL, and re-execute the SQL. This dialog is a primary dialog. This is the one that helps set up the initial connections for your user's application. It has a number of properties such as whether or not you're going to allow them to use stored procedures, log the queries to log files, show statements in DBG view, choose the appropriate server, choose a logon information, and so on. This one also shows the runtime properties. I'll actually show you this running in SQL Master, but basically where you want to see the runtime information for a particular database. It's all in front of you. Show table, super search, upload DBF classes. This is another very important one that you'll use. This is a GUI that allows you to upload DBFs into SQL Server. It has a range of options such as creating triggers and indexes. You can do it with bulk insert or not. Bulk insert is very fast. This will load hundreds of megabytes in seconds. If you don't use bulk insert, it will do a row by row insert, which could be very slow. However, if you have data that includes syntax that would thwart a standard SQL statement, you may have to load row by row. It's rare, but it's possible. You have two options of also, if your code defines primary and foreign keys, you could create the table, create the keys, but then find that the data fails to load because you have key violations. So the alternate way of doing things is to load the data before you create the keys. So you'd load all the data, but then you might find that the primary key fails to create because you have duplicated values. So one way is data first, keys second, and the other one is keys first, data second. So you have the option of which way to do it. There are some seek and search dialogues which are available to use should you wish to, and there's places where I use them. So this will create a SQL Server statement. There's another one for SQL specific installs. The other one works with DBF and SQL. This one is a SQL only installer where you can use and not before brackets and whatnot to create a fairly complex search. So you could present this to the user to say where the surname starts with C, where the balances are greater than $1,000, but only for January. So this is just a SQL syntax constructor. The next video will actually use some of these GUIs in the SQL Master tool itself.